Hello and welcome to Ways. What are you saying? Where we talk about topics in the news and how it affects us all. I'm Mary Anna Cone, and I'm so excited for this brand new week because I have with me my very normal, usual, always showing up co-anchor. What would I do without her? Mercy Bekbo.
Yes, of course, you can say the very
She's
consistent.
my twin. Yeah.
Okay. It's good to be here tonight.
How was your weekend? Did you have a great weekend?
Oh, I can't say I had a great weekend. I had a very struggling, challenging, very tough, difficult.
Isn't that the
you know what I
description
mean?
of Nigeria today? The average Nigerian.
Honestly, it is so. I really don't know, but I feel like there was. You remember a time I said, I think that every Nigerian deserves to be placed on some salary scale. As soon as you're born into this country, you deserve to be on some allowance, you know,
Yeah,
for just being
right?
a Nigerian, because, I mean, it can be very difficult. But, I mean, the most important thing is that we're alive and we are here, and that's very beautiful.
Yes, I'm thinking that maybe that stipend will come from heaven. Only heaven can compensate us for all the
for all of the struggles, right?
that we've had to deal with.
I told you.
But hello, everyone. I hope that you've had a great and exciting weekend, and we're welcoming you to the show. Now, here's what we found as our quote for today. I call on all Nigerians to combat corruption at every turn by not asking for and refusing to accept a bribe, by reporting unethical practices, or by blowing a whistle. Together, we can beat corruption. And that is, in the words of former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari. And many people will raise an eyebrow, you know, on this quote, being that his administration statistically, I beg your pardon, can be rated as one of the most corrupt administrations under the democratic dispensation. I mean, some people say it was Jonathan, but it looked like it was double under the Buhari administration. I mean, this is a government that came on the tripod of fighting corruption, putting an end to insecurity and Boko Haram, and creating employment for young people. If I were to ask you, literally wake you up from sleep as a journalist, to say which of these tripods did he at any point, you know, fulfill to the average Nigerian?
You know, the most important, for me, why this is very interesting is that I remember, you know, a few days to the handing over, I was supposed to do a very special report. I did a very special report on his administration, I mean, assessing his performance for the past 8 years and looking at some of the promises that he made, you know, the issue of fighting security, corruption, and, you know, ensuring that we have a robust economy and what have you. But let's even stay with the issue of corruption. As much as, you know, you would want to look at his administration, because he came on the, you know, on the fact that he's a no-nonsense leader, and then, you know, a lot of expectation.
He was.
No, I mean, that's what he said. He said he was a no-nonsense leader. There were a lot of expectation. Well, some people were arrested. Some people say, you know, what's it called, Dasuki, his arrest and the likes. But others would say that there were other issues where he was complicit. He was, you know, a bit indifferent. You had the issue of Maman the former Minister of Power. There were issues surrounding that. You also want to look at the, Darie. There were other, issues. And it felt like,
he pardoned Jolin Yame and Joshua Darie just at the close of his government, and many people
and
raised
you can
eyebrows
imagine.
like, sorry, sir, what are you doing?
And these are some of the issues. So there was also, you also have the fact that the ICPC was really big. You know that the ICPC and, other bodies are really big on transparency and accountability. And the Buhari's administration was also accused of not being very transparent because, a lot of things in terms of the budgeting, what have you, a lot of projects and stuff that happened in that administration. And there's no way you're going to talk about, having a system that is free of corruption without talking about accountability and transparency. So these were some of the issues. But of course, should we now say he doesn't have a right to talk about the issue of corruption? He's right about saying we have to, all hands must be on deck to fight corruption.
The thing is, I think the truth about the Buhari administration that a lot of people can actually connect with is the fact that he was very disconnected from everything that was happening around him. Half the time, he had no idea. And when you asked him, he'd say, no, it's not, he always was surprised. And that's how every statement he put out came. We're shocked and surprised, or were shocked and dismayed at the killing of 10,000 people, at the killing of 200 people. And for a government that said, because we saw, there's a saying in our place that they put water in your tummy and shake it. It's more like showing somebody shaggy. This is what he did. He held the feet of the Jonathan administration to the fire. And so the expectation level raised to the roof. And people were expecting that this man, like you said, a no-nonsense leader, general, was going to come and set things straight. Because the average person would say, this guy has no lifeline left when it comes to politics. Of course, this was going to be his last bus stop, and they thought he was going to damn all the consequences and take action. But then you could see how the former EFCC chairman was kicked out of office under his watch for a government that was touted to fight corruption. We saw all the messes that happened under his look at what Hadi Sirika did. No nonsense boss would allow Hadi Sirika walk after that scandal. But here we are.
Yes, but also, still staying with the issue of corruption, just like I said, usually you would say you take, the message and just ignore the message, right? The message is very important.
In this case, can we?
And I think that, the fight against corruption is a holistic fight.
Yes.
It's a fight that all hands must be on deck, including you and I. It's not just a fight because corruption, it's, something
it's
that's...
endemic. It's endemic.
It's in the entire system.
It's in the fabrics of our system, yes.
Of our system. And it cuts across everywhere, whether the private sector, whether the public sector. I mean, it's so much. And so as much as we constantly say, hey, we have leaders who are, at the political level or the public offices, we also need to check ourselves. Because, like I'd say, we're just a reflection of, a larger society.
Well, and that's how we're starting our conversation off for today. We're going to be talking a lot about, economic and financial crimes on the show. Now, the Yahaya Bello saga has grabbed attention of Nigerians as allegations of financial misconduct and corruption have emerged against the former Kogi State governor. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, had launched an investigation into these allegations, sparking a legal battle that could have far-reaching implications for both Bello and the Nigeria political landscape. Tonight, on Ways, we delve into the heart of this controversy with our expert guest, Bayo Sani, who will be discussing the topic Yahaya Bello versus the EFCC, uncovering the allegations. And when we open up the phone lines, we urge you all to be part of the conversation. So you can post your comments, send us a WhatsApp message, or you can call us. But first, let's take a look at what we found in the news. Mercy, what did we find in the news?
Well.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
has happened to the band A customers is that the tariff has been adjusted to reflect the cost of the service. So let's even price the commodity properly. I mean, there is a conversation around whether electricity is basic amenity or utility, or whether it's a commodity. In the days when we were swimming in petrodollar, 70s, 80s, and things like that, you could think along that line, but not today again. Electricity is a commodity. It has to be sold. So when we get more money from it, we can then develop the power sector to the point where customers will be the ones to say, no, this is the hours of electricity that I want, because that's what I can afford. So if it is night time alone, you can enjoy the electricity, all well and good. I mean, most of us travel out of this country, and we know that people don't play with their utilities. They pay for it. In Nigeria, we play with our utilities. We not only play with our utilities, we even vandalize. And we want a stable power sector. Where is that done?
We're back. It still weighs. What are you saying? And today is a Monday where we talk about all things political. And today we're going to be talking about the fight against economic and financial crimes. But before we do that, let's find out what we have seen in the news. Mercy?
Well, my story for, the news tonight is a very viral video. We're quickly going to check that out, a video of a guy who was complaining about a certain filling station, insisting that, the people must buy meat pie before... This sounds very funny.
I'm so sorry, what?
The people must buy meat pie before they are being sold petrol. Now, there are also other complaints of saying that the other branches of this same filling station asking that, they have to buy mosquito repellent or wash their car before they are able to get petrol.
It's not even a joke. What?
Oh, it's not a joke. I'm serious. If we're ready, we can actually roll that track now. Thank you.
See, I don't really understand what's in the happen for this total like this, because how on earth I go come? They go come, they tell me say I must buy meat pie before I buy fuel. You rubbish, Olele, buy. You must go buy meat pie before you buy fuel. Is this place open for a meat pie or open for a fuel station? You rubbish, Olele. This is total filling station trying shit with the masses that we have to buy meat pie before we buy fuel. What kind of insult? Rubbish, Lele, now. Continue with what? And they were proud of.
So the thing is, first of all, it has to be put out there that this is totally unethical, very unprofessional, and it is very exploitative. And I think that this is what we're good at doing. For every time there's a situation, we take advantage of the situation and we begin to exploit, ourselves. And that's really saddening. I hope the authorities, because people need to be taught a lesson. I hope the authorities have actually investigated this, and those who are responsible for this whole, situation.
I'm so sorry.
Marianne, I know the video is very funny, and I know you got a lot of people, laughing.
What's all this?
I know, first of all, if you look at the general reaction, it's very funny. And Nigerians never take things very serious. And so you need to see the comments and the reaction.
Hungry, you just
people
need
are like, they say you people have to chop meat pie first, so before you can buy petrol. But on a very serious note, it is very despicable. I mean, really, really saddening. Like I said, we always wait for the situation, we always wait for situations to exploit people. And I think that we're the problem. I'm tired of us every other time complaining about those who are occupying government, offices. We keep saying, in the midst of this, fuel scarcity, the difficulty that we're all going through, you're now compelling people to buy a certain product of yours. I don't understand. And I don't want to believe that the management of these petrol stations are in the know of all of this kind of behavior. Because it is, like I said again, it is something else. And I think that, kudos, because people are calling out all of this, behaviors across board.
Social media.
Yeah, I know that's still very funny.
Thanks to social media. It's For me, I think that it's exploitative in every way. I mean, no matter how you look at it, I mean, the fact that we're already playing to the gallery with this whole fuel scarcity. I'm sure if I asked you how much you paid down here, it'd be just some ridiculous amount. I paid a ridiculous amount to get to work today.
I paid so much.
I paid triple what I'd pay on a normal day, you know, to this place. And it's crazy, because fuel is still being sold almost at the same price. So what's the matter? But let's go back to this filling station. It's just, I'm sorry, it's the stupidest thing ever. What? So why? It's a filling station. Why do I have to buy meat pie? Why do I have to wash my car? What if all the money I have is to fuel my car because I need to get from point A to point B? Why do we do these things to ourselves? And then, just as you said a few minutes ago, we're very quick to point fingers at our politicians. We're very quick to point fingers at our leaders. But they come from amongst us. So we're doing to ourselves the same things that we're complaining that our leaders are doing to us. Why? Why? And if people decide that they're not going to buy the pie, I mean, you lose business also, because your fuel is going to sit there in that dump and no one's going to buy it. Because the average person wants to be able to buy a derica of rice or gari. They're not interested in your pie, sir. It's the people who don't chop belly full, now then go they think about that. I'm sorry, I had to do that.
No, but I mean, absolutely. You know, I've just been trying to wrap my mind around it. You know, first of all, it looked very funny. But secondly, this is something that, you know, has been going on. And and we can't continue like this, like I said. You never can tell. This is a time where people are going through a lot of economic difficulties. Homes are trying to adjust. I feel that the best that we can do is to be considerate, you know, to be kind, try to, you know, shoulder. The government might necessarily not do anything. Unfortunately, we live in a climate where this is a point where there's economic downturn. You expect that government should have palliatives, you know, measures where they can cushion the hardship, economic hardship on the people, but that's not the case. And I think that we need to be our brother's keeper. Absolutely. And that would mean that we need to look out for ourselves, not look at the slightest opportunity, you know, to exploit ourselves. Yeah. It is totally, you know, wrong and unacceptable.
It's just unnecessary. Well, let's go to mine. Well, what I found in the news obviously still ties to fuel, but Mr. President, for those of us who know, as we speak, is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, at the World Economic Forum that's hosted by the Caliphate. Well, it's very interesting because Mr. President did talk about the fact that fuel subsidy removal was necessary to avert financial crisis. In other words, he's saying that Nigeria could have ended up in bankruptcy, but that the removal of subsidy helped us to avert that crisis. The big question is, did we really avert a crisis? But take a listen to what Mr. President had to say at that economic forum. It's interesting.
Make Nigeria's economy grow further.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum. And let me, in addition, join in congratulating the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for putting this opportunity together. I know it's not easy. For Nigeria, we are immensely consistent with our belief that the economic collaboration and inclusiveness is necessary to engender stability in the rest of the world. Concerning the question of the subsidy removal, there's no doubt that it was a necessary action for my country not to go bankrupt. One, to reset the economy and the pathway to growth.
Well, that's the president there speaking. He said, for Nigeria, we're immensely consistent with our belief that the economic collaboration and inclusiveness are necessary to engender stability in the rest of the world. He said, concerning the question that he was asked on subsidy, he said, there's no doubt that it was a necessary action for my country not to go bankrupt, to reset the economy and a pathway to growth. Do we seem like we're going towards growth, Mercy? Because, I mean, it's a big question that I would want to keep asking Nigerians and everyone who's watching us. Because the president promised us that they were going to take out subsidy. And of course, they're saying that that money that we're using to subsidize could go to other aspects of the economy that need cushioning. Which aspects of the economy have these monies been moved to? Don't forget, on the one hand, we have Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria claiming that there is no subsidy removal, that they're still paying through the back door, because if there was subsidy removed, we should be paying at least 1,000 naira per litre for fuel. But that's not happening. El Rufai also came out, woke up from his sleep, and also remembered that, oh yes, subsidy has not necessarily been removed. But then, of course, the NNPC-CL has come out to say, well, no, that's not true. Subsidy has been removed. So we really don't know what to believe. There's a trust deficit, first things first. Our government is not being trustworthy. They're not telling us full truths. They're giving us half-truths. So Nigerians can't even trust if this process is going to work. Secondly, where does the money go?
You see, sometimes, I would say that, number one, growth is actually a process. So I'm not trying to be, I'm not on this other side of the divide.
Oh, no, it's
but
okay.
of course, I'm looking at, the conversation in a very holistic way. I think that, maybe after a period of time, one can actually begin to look and assess and say, hey, are we growing or we're not growing? That would be the point. But if it's growth is gradual,
Yeah, but the premise of the so-called growth, shouldn't we question it?
But you have raised some critical, interesting points. The point is, are we paying subsidy or is subsidy not being removed? Now, that question is one that you and I can literally not even answer here at this point in time.
We can't even
but
tell
we also
how,
know that,
we can't even tell
but
how
we also
much
know that,
fuel, how much crude, how much fuel that we consume as a country daily. We've not been able to get that statistic, and we're in 2024.
We also know that at some point you find out that most governments would always, when government come together, countries of nation come together, every country would always represent their home interest. I want to think that might also
look good.
That would also be, one of the things that Nigeria might be doing, the interests of her home policy. I mean, home policy is taking, being paid attention to, and then, that probably might just be what they're doing. With that whole subsidy removal, don't remove subsidy, because you have the international bodies, some of these international financial organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, and all of them giving all instructions of how you should run your economy. And most times you find out that some government would decide, to play, either play by the books or, go the other way. At the end of the day, in whose interest? But one of the things that, saddens my heart as a person and as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is that we have all it takes, to be what we should be. We have no business, dabbling in so much poverty and struggling and suffering. Not to say that we're going to be an extremely rich nation, because you can't categorically say that there's any nation that does not have their shortfalls. You don't have the poor, you don't have...
Inflation is all across the world right now.
But we're saying that we're just talking about having the basic things being provided for. And these things are not rocket science. We know what to do if we want to fix the economy. It's not... It doesn't make any sense that, we still have to have refineries that are not, refining products, and we're not able to refine to a certain capacity, so therefore we're exporting our product, and then buy it. These are some of the issues. It still doesn't also make sense that at this point we're not able also to generate our own electricity, because what are we doing with the whole gas that we're flaring?
We are able to generate our electricity. We just don't have the capacity with the equipment that we need. These equipments that's a whole kettle of fish on its own. These guys generate enough power, but then it's wasted because the transmission companies don't have the capacity to transmit. It is 2024 and we're still generating 4,000 plus.
So what's the point if you say, let's say you have a capacity to generate and you're not generating enough? It doesn't really make any sense.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like saying, I'm trying to look for an illustration now.
That I have, you can cater to 100 people, but you can only cater to 20.
I have a 20 billion naira, and then I can't afford to do what, buy a plate of food or something.
I think that in terms of power, the whole process of, what was it called now? Privatization was done poorly, was done wrongly. Banks have gone under because of that whole privatization process. They built up a dream. It's like what INEC sold to you before the 2023 elections. They sold you a dream, but they could not even scratch the surface. That's what we're dealing with our power sector. So there's so many questions that need answering. And I understand if Mr. President wants to put his best foot forward, but then if those people he's trying to lure into this country to bring business come here, we don't have power, we don't have security, the ease of doing business is not easy. the environment in itself is not, friendly. What exactly are you doing? You're just wasting our monies to bring people who will come, and after a while they pack their businesses and leave town. And I'm sure later on in the week we're going to be talking about those businesses that have upped and left. It's really a sad situation. But we wish the president and his crew the best while they're in Riyadh. Hopefully they are able to appeal to the consciences of some people. I mean, I saw the meeting with the Norwegian government, amazing. And of course with Maersk, they signed an agreement with Maersk. So let's see how that goes. Well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, before we do that, International Dance Day is actually celebrated on April 29 each year. I didn't know that. I should have been dancing. Well, I've been dancing today. I think we've been in the mood today. Well, it was credited or created by the Dance Committee of the International Theatre Institute. This is the main partner for the performing arts of UNESCO. Now, the day in itself aims to promote the art of dance around the world, raise awareness of its importance, and celebrate its universality. It's a day for dancers, choreographers, and companies and enthusiasts to come together to showcase their passion for dance through performances, workshops, and other events. I'll tell you something that I'm sure you know this fact about me.
You used to be a dancer.
I used to be a dancer. I used to dance for True to Him. I used to be in the dance section
really?
of True to Him.
I
could
knew you to
sing, yes, I used to
I
sing,
didn't know
but
about
I
the
was,
dancing.
yes, we were called, oh my goodness, I can't even remember the name of our dance crew. But we used to really dance, and I remember my very good friend Udwaga Fanga, Eken Ondebio. We were all in the front row dancing. It was just really cool.
You don't want to hear my story of
I
dancing.
can't even believe that, we did all these things. And we said, oh, gosh, we're old.
Me, I think I've always wanted to dance, but I mean, I suck at dancing. I'm just horrible at dancing.
Now I have two left legs. I can't even believe it. I'm sure my brother is watching. He used to tell me that, you used to know how to dance. With the whole carnival in Calabar,
Yeah.
Africa's biggest street party, would be there, stepping on the stage, we were hyping. You knew every dance for that year. But bro, the moment I became a political journalist, politics just wiped off all the dance
but I
steps.
think that you still have it. It's just that
Do
you're
I?
not probably, committed to all of that.
I feel like I have two left legs.
Usually when
Have
I
you
get...
gone dancing lately?
Eh?
Have you gone
No,
dancing?
I dance. You necessarily don't need to go anywhere to dance. You can just dance in your house. And that's the thing we're saying.
Yeah, I know how
you
to
can just play
dance.
music and
This
dance in your house.
kind God, another one. No, that's the only dance I know.
But I
how to
think that the
dance.
thing with me is sometimes when I'm in, like in church, I just don't really dance. I just do the whole...
Yeah, the rich auntie
those
in church.
demo.
Yeah, I will just be.
And then, you just have all
don't-
of that. But it's beautiful. It's
Dance is a form of exercise, it's a form of relief. Dance actually can help you if you're depressed. I learned that early in life that, dance and music have a correlation, and once you're able to explore it, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling sick, it's a very good form of exercise, and your body reacts to it beautifully. So when are we going dancing?
We will dance shortly after the show.
Okay, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about, of course, the high-stakes showdown between the EFCC and, of course, the former Kogi State Governor, Yahaya Bello, with accusations of financial impropriety hanging over his head. Bello finds himself at the center of a legal storm that could redefine his career and shake the foundations of Nigerian politics. And we will be joined in a bit by our guest to unpack the legal intricacies of this case. We'll be right back after this short break.
Efficiency in terms of electricity distribution. People should be able to see this power being generated. When you see that power is generated, you won't really complain in payment. However, the hike in price was quite sudden. Yeah, they made clarifications that it only affects about 1.9 million Nigerians, that about 10 million more are still under subsidy. And it begs the question, are they not Nigerians? The so-called 1.9, are they not entitled to some form of subsidy? This should happen in phases, not outright like 200% increase. That is so, will I say, uncalled for. And looking at the fact that subsidy has been removed on petroleum products like a year ago, bringing about this one now makes it difficult for everybody at the same time.
The fact is, truly, we've never had stable power. It's just like talking about financial literacy. I don't have money, so I should learn about money.
Exactly.
In the same vein, I don't have lights, and you're talking about me effectively managing lights. When I have power, I'm excited.
Exactly.
Put everything on.
Right.
We all turn to ice block. Let there be light. Right? So sometimes it feels like there is a tunnel vision around the challenges and the realities. Then you just pick one minute part of it and you hold on to it. It doesn't say that the thing you said is not valid, but there's context, right? So the challenges that we're facing today, we've kicked the can down the road for so long. Everything has now come to roost all at the same time. Plus subsidy on power, plus electricity, plus exchange rate. So the Nigerian consumer, let me not say the poor Nigerian consumer, the Nigerian consumer right now, we need to breathe.
You're still watching Ways. What are you saying? The conversation is all about you. Yes, but we're talking about financial improprieties, economic and financial crimes, allegations rather, leveled against the former Kogi State Governor, Yahaya Bello. And joining us to unpack this is, of course, Bayo Sani, who is a lawyer, an expert in today's conversation. I would like to welcome our guest. He is a managing partner with Bayo Sani & Co., a legal practitioner of over 15 years, and he's a dispute resolution specialist and a public commentator. Mr. Sani, so good to have you join us. Good evening. Mr. Sani, can you hear me? Mr. Sani, can you hear me? All right, we'll take a quick break and bring Mr. Sani to join us in the conversation. All right, welcome. It's still Ways, and we're talking about the financial improprieties and allegations that the EFCC have leveled against former Governor Yahaya Bello. My guest is Mr. Sani, who's just joining us again. Apologies, Mr. Sani. Thank you so much for joining us, and good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm sure that you obviously have been following the Yahaya Bello saga and all of the allegations that have been leveled against him. But for the benefit of those who are watching us, I'm just going to, re-emphasize some of these allegations that have been leveled against former Governor Yahaya Bello. They, of course, include misappropriation of public funds, corruption, money laundering, embezzlement, fraudulent contracting practices, abuse of office, and asset management. Now, but let's start with the latest, which is, of course, that the school, the American school where his children attend, have refunded the monies that were paid in to the school's coffers as school fees for tuition fees, obviously, for his children. And they have obviously said that the monies that were paid were more, but that some have been deducted for school services, but they have returned about 400 plus or 48,000 plus dollars to government coffers. Now, the EFCC, obviously, on the other hand, had been vilified for how they went about, you know, the issue. But is this something that could vindicate the EFCC and the allegations that have been made so far?
Well, we can't talk about vindication now, because we must remember that all these are still allegations. Yeah. When EFCC came forward to make that announcement that Governor Yahaya Bello took out $720,000 from the account of the Kogi state government and paid his children's school fees in advance with it, Yahaya Bello on his own part also came forward to deny this allegation. All right, and these are still allegations, so to speak, because Yahaya Bello has not been convicted by the court of law yet. Okay, so now going back to what has transpired between EFCC and the school, EFCC has labeled these $720,000 paid into the school's account as proceeds of crime, because by declaring that he took that fund from the account unlawfully, let me put it that way, or illegally, from the account of the Kogi state government, they have, declared it as proceeds of fund. And recipients of proceeds of funds are bound to return that money. That refund, you may find them also facing criminal charges in the court of law. So the school has acted differently by returning that to EFCC. And don't forget that they said they paid $720,000.
Mr. Sani, it's very difficult for us to hear you if you can hear me. We're having a little bit of an interference, and I'm guessing that it's the connection where you are. If it's possible for you to move to a better part of the building to see if we can hear you better, but try talking again. Well, we lost you. Perfect. This works.
At what point did you lose my?
You were talking about the fact that the school has, you know, sent back the monies.
Yeah. So I said the school acted decently. You know, did you get the part where I mentioned that EFCC has declared that school fees, the payment as proceeds of funds?
Yes.
Proceeds of crime. Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Now the school has acted decently by returning that money, in order not to be caught up in any legal battle. Okay? But don't also forget that they said he paid the school fees in advance. So they returned part of this $720,000. So in all this scenario, you understand, we should also be looking at the right of the powers of EFCC to trace this fund to the school, and the powers of EFCC to retrieve this fund from the school to ensure that it goes back without a court order, mandating them to return, to refund or return this money back to the city. So these are the allegations now, okay? But we should also be mindful, we should appreciate the fact that Governor Yahaya Bello still has his fundamental rights in place, that he is presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law.
Absolutely. But Mr. Sani, sorry, let me come in there. The EFCC, as usual, never really goes to arrest anyone outrightly if only you are invited and you come willingly, just as they invited lots of people. But there have also been cases where they'd had to break into apartments to get people, for example, the likes of Rochas or Karacha. We saw what happened just before the presidential elections. And so in the case of Yahaya Bello, they're also alleging that they've invited him. And his response was that they should come to him they should come to his village. So when you talk about his, fundamental rights, does your right not stop where another person's begins?
Look, yeah, you see, if you look at the powers of EFCC under Section 13, subsection 1 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act 2004. EFCC has the power to prevent or detect offenses in violation of the provisions of this act and arrest and apprehension of economic and financial crime perpetrators. Okay, now this act, there is no provision in this act that stops EFCC from proceeding, from going ahead to arrest perpetrators of economic and financial crimes without getting without a warrant of arrest. They are already empowered by the provisions of this section to arrest. So inviting you is still based on the fact that, look, there's an allegation against you. We are giving you the right to fair hearing. Come forward and defend yourself. Provisions of this Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act can proceed to court and file charges against you, even without you going to their office to write your statement, or without any invitation. All right.
Okay.
So I don't see where EFCC has acted ultra virus of its powers here. However, what led to the issue of warrant of arrest was the judgment, the order of court obtained by Yahaya Bello from the Kogi State High Court. That order did not restrain EFCC perpetually from arresting Yahaya Bello. That judge that court clearly specified the limits of its orders by stating that, look, you cannot arrest him without warrant of arrest. So even the judge, the court, that's the Kogi State High Court, has also not prevented EFCC from carrying out its statutory powers. It has only confined it to certain limits which are still within the law.
Okay.
So that caused EFCC to go back to the Federal High Court, obtain the warrant of arrest before proceeding against Yahaya Bello.
So, but
now, there could be there's a slight difference from what played out here and what played out in Okorocha's case.
Okay, but I'd also like to ask you, Sani, do you think that EFCC would need any sort of evidence at this point in time, to get to the stage where you're saying, even if he doesn't necessarily come to defend himself, they could secure, a conviction or, get a warrant?
They have already obtained the warrant. So that's why they declared Yahaya Bello wanted based on the warrant of arrest that they obtained from the Federal High Court. Okay. Now, when it comes to evidence doesn't play out yet now. I think evidence should be left for trial when they get to trial. So I wouldn't really, all these allegations, going back to the way the press statement, the press conference held by EFCC where the chairman of EFCC addressed the public or the masses, stating all these allegations against Yahaya Bello. At best, they are still allegations. They are still allegations that still need to be established through evidence. When they get to trial, that's when Yahaya Bello has either been arrested or he has turned himself in and he has been arraigned before the court. His plea has been taken, and after the plea has been taken, if he pleads not guilty, he goes to trial.
Great.
So when they get to trial, EFCC will have ample opportunity. They will have the whole time to present their evidence to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt.
Absolutely.
Let us even still take it that way. The onus is on EFCC to establish that Yahaya Bello has committed that crime beyond reasonable doubt.
Mr. Sani, we're going to come back. We want to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll talk about that aspect, which is proving their case. Because many have questioned why we've seen these media trials. We've seen this braggadocious, kind of attitude towards arresting so-called, looters of our national coffers or state coffers. But then at the end of the day, the trail runs cold. So when we come back from the break, we'll be talking about that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You're still watching Ways, and we're talking about the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, versus Yahaya Bello, and all of the allegations that have been leveled against him. My guest is Mr. Sani, who has been talking to us. He obviously is a legal practitioner. Bayo Sani has been giving us the legal intricacies and, of course, the step-by-step procedure with which this case should be followed. Messi, before we went on that break, you had a question.
Yes, so so we don't, begin to preempt, start any media trial and what have you. But let's look at this in a very holistic manner, in the sense that we've had a lot of, arguments over time about the removal of, the impunity clause in the section of the Constitution. Immunity. Yes, that's 308. The 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because some persons have argued that this immunity clause is responsible for the corrupt practices, behavior amongst, governors and lawmakers. What do you think could be responsible for this practice? Do you agree? Do you think that the immunity clause, the fact that they're not being held accountable, this clause does not necessarily spell out that at the end of a certain tenure, you're supposed to come give account of, what you did, how much you took out from the, state accounts and what have you? Do you think that this is the reason why we have this kind of behavior, corrupt practices amongst our governors, lawmakers and what have you?
No, you see, look, the immunity clause is really not our problem. It's not a challenge we are facing when it comes to corrupt practices by political office holders, especially the governors. Immunity clause is not really our problem. The immunity clause, you see, the jurisprudential rationale behind the immunity clause is to prevent frivolous actions, frivolous criminal allegations against political office holders, which will likely impede the smooth running of governance. As a governor, there are some decisions that you will likely take in office that may probably be seen by some people in some quarters as a crime. Okay? That does not mean you are allowed to commit a crime. But after your tenure as governor, you should come forward and answer for these actions. Okay, so I won't really say that, like, going back to your question, the basis of your, the foundation of your question is for me to speak to whether I agree with the removal of, whether I agree with those who are clamoring for the removal of the immunity clause or not. I would say that the immunity clause is not really our problem. The immunity clause was inserted in our constitution for good reason, and is to ensure the smooth running of government, of governance, administration, and all that, and what have you. However, some people, we shouldn't deny the fact that some people have abused power. Look at what played out in Yahaya Bello's case now. He was to be arrested in Abuja, in his residence in Abuja, but the governor came in, the present governor of Kogi State came in, and EFCC alleged that the governor whisked Yahaya Bello away. The governor apparently used this immunity umbrella to carry out that act because he couldn't be arrested at that point. Okay, so we have seen how people have been able to, people have abused this immunity clause. But there are other laws, there are other ways that we can actually ensure that these governors do not abuse this office, do not siphon money, do not embezzle money. Do you understand? There are other ways we can do that we can check them.
What are those ways?
Thank you. For example, look, a lot of transactions in Nigeria are still carried out through cash. In governance, government still allow people to pay contractors in cash. That's one. Several other ways, like you can also come up with legislative acts that ensures that, look, these are the things that governors, these are the roles governors must perform. For example, I do not see reason why we still make Section 2 of our Constitution not justiciable. When I talk about Section 2 of the Constitution, I mean the economic rights of the citizens are not justiciable. These are rights to education, right to good health, right to good infrastructure, and all that. These are the economic rights of the citizens. These economic rights are not justiciable in the sense that citizens cannot enforce these rights in the court of law, just like they can do. I mean, chapter 2, not section 2, chapter 2. So they cannot enforce these rights the same way they can enforce the rights given to them under chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution. That's the fundamental right. In chapter 4, that's right to fair hearing, right to life, right to personal liberty, right to dignity of human persons, and what have you. So why do we still have these economic rights as not justiciable in 21st century, when we know that somebody can take $720,000 from their account for his own personal use, whereas children on the street do not have access to quality education?
But Sani,
But
do you think that, you know, this kind of behavior, because I've been wondering to myself, do these governors actually act, you know, by themselves, or do they have accomplices, or do they have people who are accomplices, who are, you know, accompany them, you know, to commit this particular acts of embezzling, misuse of these funds? Do they act, you know, as a person, or they also have people, you know, working together with them?
Of course, they usually do. If you check most of these cases against these governors, you will find out that, look, it's either you have this accomplice turning around to become a witness for the prosecuting agency, or they arraign them along with the governors. In this Yahaya Bello's case now, I recall that his nephew was arrested during his administration. An officer of the State House was also arrested while Yahaya Bello was still the governor. So EFCC actually started this investigation way back. This investigation did not start now when Yahaya Bello left office. If you have been following the series of events that started playing out as far back as 2 years ago, all right? EFCC started arresting people very close around the corridors of power. And if you listen to the press conference that the EFCC chairman organized some time ago, he stated there that the man that was found to be the one carrying out this cash from state offices to several bureau de change, I mean these BDCs, to exchange this naira for $2, he has been arrested also. So they cannot do this without acting in concert with some other officers or some other public officers like civil servants. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying, let us be very mindful here. I'm not saying Yahaya Bello is guilty. I can't preempt. I don't want to preempt the court. I'm not preempting the court here.
Of course.
And I think we have made that clear.
Yeah.
So for the purpose of our viewers or our listeners, they should understand that we are not talking about a convicted or a condemned Yahaya Bello here. We are still looking at these allegations at the surface.
Yeah.
Because we have not even seen this evidence being presented to the court yet. All we have are the facts given to us by EFCC. And there's a fundamental principle of law that you must hear the other side. So until that is done, that is when we can now discuss the guilt of the accused person here. So going back to what we are saying, obviously there are people, there are other actors, accomplices, like you have called them, who usually participate in this crime. They do. And if I want to talk about these participating actors, I will put my beam light on civil servants. They can't do this without the assistance of the civil servants. So when we talk about corruption, when we talk about embezzlement of funds, we should look at the accountant general of that state, permanent secretaries of the state of the government house, and several other people. I'm not saying these people are guilty in Yahaya Bello's case. I'm just saying, we are talking about holders of offices that can be easily used to embezzle money. Okay. Then another thing, you asked about ways of preventing this from happening. You see, another problem we have is this process of awarding contracts. There's a lot of mystery. surrounding award of contracts at the state level. Who are the accredited contractors, the accredited vendors? What is the process? Who are the members of the tender board? How do they submit their bid? How do they make their tenders? Who approves this tender? Do they discuss it at the executive council meeting, or is just the governor that will sit down in his office and say, okay, go and give this contract to this person, go and give this one to this person, go and give this to this person, then pay this person, then you call the commissioner for finance and the accountant general and show that this fund is disbursed to this person. You see, so there's a lot of mystery around it, and until we unravel this mystery by legislations, when I mean legislations, I mean fiscal legislation that will regulate how contracts are awarded at the state level.
Okay, all right. Mr. Sani, let me just quickly pick your brains on something before we wrap up this conversation. Let's go back to the EFCC because, of course, whether we like it or not, they're on the chopping board here. Whether they do good or they do not, they will obviously end up on the chopping board.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you properly. I think that the line is breaking.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better?
Okay. I think it's better now.
So I want us to talk about the EFCC. Many over the years have queried the ability of the EFCC to carry out the job that has been set before it. Many have questioned how the boss, the man, the set man for the EFCC is being picked. Many have also queried if he's able to look his boss in the eyes. I being one of those people. If, for example, Olukoyede can look Mr. President in the face and say, sir, you've given me a job to do, and I'm going to do it, notwithstanding who, is your friend, who is your family member. If a person is guilty, that person needs to face the music. Many have said that the EFCC has lost its bark and its bite. What would you say is responsible for that? And can they even really be able to continue that fight?
What is responsible for that is the act itself. The act, the statute that established EFCC. I understand that when this act was sent to the National Assembly in those days as a bill, it was watered down by the members of that National Assembly to suit their own convenience. So a lot of provisions that were there as a bill were removed. So when the bill was returned back to the president for his assent, there were so many provisions that were missing. What I just said now can be found in President Obasanjo's book, My Watch, and you can also read Okonjo Iweala's book on fighting corruption in Nigeria. That's where these facts came out from. Now, so when you talk about that act, there is a mistake we are making about this very relevant, very fundamental agency in Nigeria. We shouldn't be talking about Olukoyede. For over time, we've been seeing strong men in EFCC. We do not need to see strong men in running EFCC. We need to see a strong institution.
Mr. Sani, I'm so sorry. We're out of time. We're out of time, and I apologize. I really wanted you to land. So we need stronger institutions and not strong men. I want to say thank you. Bayo Sani is a managing partner with Bayo Sani & Co. He's a legal practitioner, 15 years experience, and he's a dispute resolution specialist and a public commentator. We definitely have you do a comeback, and this time we'll probably be talking about the body and, of course, the act that put it together. But thank you, Mr. Sani, for coming on the show. Well, we want to thank you all for being part of the conversation for today. Time is running in heels.
You know how when the conversation is interesting, times.
Well, before we leave you, let's remind you of our quote for today by former President Muhammadu Buhari. He says, I call on all Nigerians to combat corruption at every turn by not asking for and refusing to accept a bribe, by reporting unethical practices, and by blowing a whistle. Together, we can beat corruption. I want to say thank you all. This is a message to all of us. Don't take kickbacks. Don't take monies under the table. And if you're a journalist, no brown envelope for you. My name is Mary Anacon. Thank you for being part of the conversation. Follow us on our social media, all our media portals. And, of course, subscribe to our YouTube. But before I say my goodbyes, Mercy?
Well, do have a good night rest and do not forget to be kind tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow at 8.